Spire the Watcher is the latest dungeon in D2 now. It's been out for a couple of hours now, so we're going to talk about it and go through it with a detailed guide. Briefly, I will mention what characters to use, gun recommendations, which subclass to use, solar, blah, 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 and all that. But for the most part, I'm going to talk about the dungeon and details in the dungeon that will help you, hopefully, and describe how the encounters work, because a lot of people seem to be misunderstanding, which is actually understandable given the, I wouldn't say complexity of the dungeon, but there are a lot of, what's the expression? Loose ends in this dungeon. Let's go with that. So, let's get into the encounters. I will talk about the jumping puzzles briefly, but the encounters are going to be the bulk of the video. Warlocks, your number one pick for this is absolutely going to be Dawnblade, Well of Radiance. It's not even close. Starfire Warlocks with fusion grenades are absolutely insane. That's not even combining it with everything else, such as Cataclysmic in the game. By far the best pick for Warlocks in this. Titans, you kind of have two options in this. You can go back and forth between either Sunbreaker because you're just straight up unkillable, or you could have the option of switching to Arc and then abusing Storm Grenades plus Thunder Crash for some burst damage on bosses. That's up to you. Either one is good. I personally would roll with Sunbreaker just because you can synergize with solar fonts for solar weapons. Hunters, I think you kind of get the short end of the stick in this dungeon. You're kind of just forced to play into the Night Stalker role. You're just losing out on damage if you don't. Tether is the highest debuff in the game, tied with a couple of others, but Tether is a super as opposed to like Tractor, which is a weapon, and you're going to waste a heavy slot. So Night Stalkers are kind of just that role where they give you the highest, best damage buff without sacrificing a weapon. If you don't run Night Stalker, if you just, don't want to, whatever it may be, you could, of course, run the Gathering Storm Super and then run a 1-2 punch build, or just have a heavy with a linear fusion and play into the team like that. Additionally, I will mention in this dungeon, you could always go the route of popping a Tether and then switching to a solar subclass and then picking up a solar font and doing your damage normally with a solar weapon or whatever your team may be using, solar arc, etc. Now let's get into the actual dungeon. So the first encounter, the immediate thing you're going to want to do is avoid the Tumbleweed. It will kill you, it'll send you in orbit, it'll say Calabrese, and then it'll crash your game. If you know, you know. Moving on, you're going to want at least one ranged weapon in this encounter because there will be Cyclopses spawning on the top of the area, both cliff edges. There'll be 4 total, and they do respawn, so they're pretty annoying. Other than that, there will be goblins in the middle of the arena, as well as minotaurs. Minotaurs are going to play the key role here. There will be minotaurs spawning, and each time that you kill one, there will be a pool under where their body died. This pool will give you a electrician buff. Oh, well, that's what I'm calling it anyway. We're becoming electricians. So this buff will allow you to shoot nodes across this area for this encounter. What you need to do is basically create a daisy chain with these nodes while you have the buff. The buff starts with 30 seconds on your timer, and if you successfully keep shooting nodes, it increases your timer by about 4 seconds. As long as you don't screw up, you can basically keep it going until the entire encounter is done if you know where all the nodes are. Now, speaking of the nodes, you're going to want to start and find out where each one kind of begins. You're going to see these wires on the ground in the middle. They're actually not the start of where you start pulling out these nodes and shooting them one by one, but rather you're going to go to each building or under the building or above the building and start from there. One is on the side, on the top right, for example. On the close right from where you come in, that one starts underground. So they're all over the place, and all this is really a memory game. You need to memorize which node starts where, and eventually you lead from that start point and daisy chain all the way back to the center of the map, and the center one you will shoot as the final node. And this happens 4 times in the arena. You do this 4 times, all 4 will light up in the middle, and that's how the encounter ends. Once you've completed the encounter, you're going to do the typical Destiny thing. You're going to head downward, go through some pipes, go through some vents, and then head to your first jumping puzzle. The only thing to note here in this jumping puzzle is that you can either just use Shatter Skate or Well Skate or Titan Skate, go straight across, and you're done. Or if you do it the normal method, the idea here is for you to float to the left side of the arena. Obviously, if you can't skate across, if you're not experienced with that, you're going to need to kill the enemies. There will be some Harpies, some Vex Hydras in the air, so just take your time with those. And then there will be some platforms on the left side that you can, platform on, and then eventually you will get to the end. Once you get to the far, far back left, then there will be a bridge that leads you from the left to the right, and that will be the exit of the arena where you will see a gravity lift. Now, before I go to the next part, I will note that there is a secret chest in this section, and the secret chest is in the back left of the room from where you enter. So pretend you're entering this jumping puzzle right now, and then to your left, that chest will be behind the pillar on the wall to you. Easiest way to get to this chest is, again, follow the left platforms, and then instead of going to the right to finish the jumping puzzle, you will go left. There will be a small platform on the ground for you to climb up on. Eventually, you'll hit the top or the ceiling where the enemies are typically at, and once you do that, you simply just turn around. And by the way, if you have stompies, lion rampants, a sword out, greatly benefits you and makes this much easier and much faster. You're going to want to parkour your way to the back of the pillar. Once you get there, you'll also see a terminal for lore, by the way. I'll have a separate video for the lore locations. And then once you pass the lore terminal, just look to the right side of that wall pillar, and then you will see the chest glowing on the end. Jump there, get the chest, and then you're done. Now, once you continue on, you will eventually hit a rally flag point, which will basically start the next portion of this dungeon. I believe this is still called Spire Ascent for this encounter until you get to the next boss. So, as the encounter would tell you, you are going to try to ascend. Essentially, you're going to start climbing upwards on the tower, and eventually you will hit a Minotaur. So, this next part is kind of hard to explain. Some people might understand, others will be confused. It's really up to preference of where you're standing and where you want to geographically say this encounter starts, but I will try my best to explain in simple terms of where the starting points for this next encounter are, just to not confuse people. So, if I confuse you, I'm sorry, but here we go. When you get to the rally flank, you're going to rally, get your ammo, and you're going to start climbing upwards. Once you get upstairs, and you get far enough to where you start seeing nodes, to your immediate left, just keep going, and eventually you will hit a Minotaur, either a regular Minotaur or a Overload Minotaur if you're a master. From there, you kill the Minotaur, and you turn around towards the wall, you will see 2 nodes on the wall. These 2 are the starting nodes for this encounter. So you start here, and then you daisy chain across either to the left or to the right, or you split up, whatever you want to do with your fire team, up to you. And you will daisy chain, I believe, 6 nodes straight across, and eventually it'll lead you to the opposite end of the tower where you just started with killing that Minotaur. This is the first floor, and once you do that on both ends, you complete it, and then there will be a grav lift in front of you that activates, again, on the opposite end of where you killed the first Minotaur. Then you just take the grav lift, and you go up. Then, after taking the grav lift, you will get to the section where it's basically the same thing. However, the spawns have changed. There will be an electric field on the left and right side of you after you've taken the grav lift. And what you want to do is go up to those, not in them. Don't die. By the way, there's a lot of desyncs, so it might still kill you. Minotaurs will be spawning in these fields. So what you want to do is kill the Minotaur outside of the field, let it chase you a little bit. Once you kill it, again, the daisy chain starts there. So you will see 2 nodes inside of those electrical fields. Shoot the left one or the right one, split up, do both of them, up to you. And then from there, you lead on to the left and right of where that starting point is. Again, this is kind of dumb to explain. It could be rather confusing. But essentially, for the first 2 floors, where you see the Minotaur spawn, that is where the daisy chain begins. And then again, you split off and get, I believe, 6 nodes, which will lead you to the opposite end of the arena where you just killed the guy. And then, again, a grav lift will spawn, and then you head upward. Finally, for the 3rd level of the Ascension, it's, again, the same thing. You go up, kill Minotaur, get buff, and start shooting nodes. The only difference for the 3rd floor is that instead of having 2 nodes in front of you where you start the daisy chain and then go across, you'll have 1 node immediately in front of you once you take the grav lift, and then on the opposite end of where you just took the lift, there will be another node. So you and one other person can split off, start from opposite ends with the buff, and then daisy chain your way across to finish the nodes. And then after that, you are done, and you're going up to the first boss. So for the first boss in this dungeon, I'm just going to straight up say it. If you've played Garden of Salvation, the raid, this boss is literally the Harpy boss. 1-for-1 clone in every way for the boss DPS portion of this encounter. It doesn't work exactly the same as the Gambit mechanic that the boss had in Garden, but the boss model is the same. So if you've played that, you know the eyes, they're going to pop out, you shoot the eyes, and then you get damage. I'm going to explain the whole encounter if you have not played Garden, but thought I'd just mention that because everyone's going to notice it immediately. So to start this encounter, you are in the middle of the arena. You're going to have a rally flag, and then you're going to have 4 nodes on the floor in front of you, dead center of the arena. So what you did in the first encounter where you went from outward to inward, you're doing the opposite here. You're going to start with 4 nodes in the middle, and then you're going to go from middle to the outer parts of the arena until you get all the chains and the nodes done. So basically, you will have Minotaurs and Harpies spawn in. You kill the Minotaur. Once again, you will get your electrician buff, quote unquote. And then you start on any of the 4 nodes in the middle. Once you do, you're going to build a chain going from the middle to one of the conductors on the 4 ends. You're going to have 6 nodes to shoot, get to the end of the conductor, get it complete. It'll be glowing blue, and then your job is done. You basically repeat this process 4 times, however your team wants to divide that. 1 person gets 2, 2 people get 2, whatever it may be. Just make sure that once you have 3 completed, you're all going to the final node, because once you do, the boss will be floating to that section of the fight to start damage phase. Again, it's just like Garden. The boss will come to you on whatever side the 4th completion is. So once you do that, what you can do here is that get your fire team together, and then if you'd like, you could form a font farm, I suppose you can call this. There'll be goblins that spawn under you in this encounter for the final node, where you can send a teammate downstairs to get a fusion grenade to make a solar well, or maybe a bonk hammer, or a knife with Caliban's, whatever you want to do. And you can preemptively make a font of might well on the floor, so you can get more damage. Boss will come to you, open his eyes, there'll be a bunch of red eyes to shoot. Once you've successfully shot all the red eyes, the damage portion will start. Now, I'll note right now, there are, I don't want to say it's rumors, but speculation that the faster you shoot these red eyes, the more time you will get in the damage phase. I really didn't have any experience with that, so I can't say for sure 100%, but I did want to mention it just in case others are experiencing that. In any case, you want to shoot the red eyes as fast as possible, because why would you want to go slower for that, you know what I mean? So, once the red eyes are gone, then the boss goes white, and this is where you do damage. So, just like Garden, this boss will start moving away from you gradually and faster as you go. So the idea here is that you can't stay stationary, and you kind of have to follow the boss and chase him down. Otherwise, the damage phase ends early. That's my experience anyway. I know some people have said it, for some reason, extends their damage, but I did not have that experience. Maybe the boss is just buggy, who knows. But in my case, all we did was start damage phase, and then we started shooting our usual stuff with a horde, a SMG shot, so I can proc bait and switch next with Cataclysmic, or use a type hand with triple tap, and then gradually follow the boss back to middle while we're shooting him in the face, and eventually the damage phase will end. After that, everything resets, and you repeat the process exactly the same. Nothing changes. Go to middle, kill a Minotaur, get the buff, and then start making nodes, connect all 4 dots once again to start another damage phase, and literally repeat the process. Nothing else changes in this boss fight other than that. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the next portion of the dungeon. Simply put, it's just more parkouring, more jumping, and then getting to the final encounter of the dungeon. Essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to head downward into some vents, fall into some holes or slides. Eventually, you will hit some rooms with ads. All you have to do in these rooms are kill the ads, kill the Minotaur, get the buff, look for 5 nodes on the walls or around the arena, shoot all 5, and then the next portion opens up for you. Eventually, you will hit through all these floors, go downward, and hit a room, basically with an electric cube. There will be 4 diamonds surrounding the room in the shape of a diamond. You hit all 4 nodes, then you hit the 5th one in the cube, and then you're done. Then you will go down a slide in one of the corners of this area. Brief note, there is a secret chest in this area as well. If you go into the midsection of this room, between the cube and the grates where you shoot the nodes, there's a staircase. Go under the staircase, there's a vent to shoot that vent, go down, there's a secret chest. If you're enjoying the video thus far, be sure to subscribe and also hit the notification bell for more Destiny. So, now you're at the boss room. The final boss of this dungeon is a giant Vex chicken, a wyvern, and if you don't have experience in fighting these, you're going to have a real bad time. This guy hurts, and you're going to need to memorize the room real fast, or you're going to get slapped around. So for this final boss, you have 2 sections to this boss fight arena. The one where you spawn in with a rally flag, and then the opposite end, which is basically a reactor core with the boss, who will not be moving until you begin the encounter. What happens here is that the opening room, which is where you spawn in, will start with ads coming in, and then 2 hydras, one on the left, one on the right. Once you kill these ads and the hydra, then they'll be replaced with minotaurs, one on the left, one on the right. Meanwhile, there'll be ads spawning basically everywhere throughout the entire boss fight, so beware of those. There are a lot of fanatic harpies that will just explode and one-shot kill you because they just don't give a damn, so watch out for those. The idea for this boss fight is they're going to combine the 2 node systems that you experienced in this dungeon already. the nodes where there will be yellow wires under them, and then nodes in the center in the shape of a square that'll be red. The red nodes are what you start the boss fight with to know how to differentiate which yellow nodes you're going to be shooting. For example, you're going to start the boss fight, you're going to kill a Minotaur on the left or the right, you will then get the buff, same as usual throughout the entire dungeon. What you do now is you shoot this square of nodes in the center with red wires. You shoot all 4 of them, and then you shoot the diamond door in the center of the room. This is the door you'd be looking at where the boss would be, and you look above the door, there will be a 5th node that you shoot. Once this 5th node is shot, then the nodes on the left and right outer side of the spawn point will then open up. There will be 2 open at a time. It could either be both left, both right, or 1 on each side. So make sure you know which is which. The ones that are open are the ones you need to start making a daisy chain with. This will spread from the opening room, where you guys are, to the reactor room. There will be, again, 6 or 7 of these to chain together, and once you do, the same prompt will come up on the screen. What happens when you do 2 of these successfully is that the game will tell you the reactor core is full, or that there's a reactor alarm, and you need to seek safety. What you need to do in this is make sure the boss is in the reactor room and not the beginning room when you hit that final node. The reason for this is that the room needs to lock down and the doors close, and then the DPS portion starts. Otherwise, you're just going to waste the phase and everything will restart, and you're going to need to do all the daisy chains all over again. That, or, you'll die, which is a big no-no. So to explain thoroughly from my own perspective, this is what I do in the boss fight. We spawn in, we kill Hydra left, Hydra right, then we kill Minotaur left or right, doesn't matter which one. Immediately after killing one, you go to the center of the room where you just spawn in near the rally flag, you shoot all 4 diamond nodes that are with the red wire in a square in the center. Then you shoot the door, or above the diamond door I should say, and then all 5 are lit up. By the way, the order of which you shoot these does not matter. You can shoot the door first, and then the ones in the square, or vice versa, doesn't matter. Once that's done, you look on the left and the right and see which yellow node diamonds are open, and whether they're both on one side or split 1 and 1. After that, you can split off 2 people, make sure you're hitting these nodes correctly. If you are, you will see the wires turn blue, of course, and then those are going to lead you into the reactor room. Once you complete those, it'll give you a prompt. Make sure after 1 is completed, you are then kiting the boss into the boss room to make sure they're in the reactor core. Then you alert your teammate, like, hey, we're good to go, finish up your node, or maybe it's you that you're finish up the node, you're doing both jobs, whatever it may be. Once you do and it says, seek safety, the reactor is about to melt down, you run to the beginning room again with your teammates. The doors are going to close. Once you've ran back to your teammates, you're going to need to either kill another Minotaur to acquire the buff again, or you might still have your buff active from the previous Minotaur, because again, hitting nodes successfully gives you about 4 seconds extra to work with. So if you still have a timer on the clock, what you ideally want to do is start shooting the same red diamond squares in the middle, and then when you have 4 out of 5 completed, you tell your teammates, hey, this is the time we can make a font off this Minotaur, or get charged with light, or whatever damage buff you want to prep with that. Then, your teammate will shoot the 5th node. As soon as the 5th node is shot, the doors lock up, and the damage phase is about to begin, and you have a couple of seconds to prepare yourselves. At this point, my recommendation here would be bring a Well of Radiance. I don't think I need to explain why you should bring Well of Radiance. Make sure you pop it towards the back of the room. It doesn't have to be near, like, exactly in the diamond doorway of the beginning, but you don't want to put it anywhere near where the boss is coming through, which is the center, because the closer he gets to you, the more flinch you get, the harder it is to hit shots, and you don't want that. So, first tip would be put the well somewhere in the back. Other than that, the boss phase is basically the giant chicken is walking towards you and shooting you. That's it. So all you have to worry about is either aiming your shots, if you're not using div, or if you're using div, well, just hit the giant cage. If you don't want to use div, you do have the option of running things like Gallahorn, Legendary Rockets, Xenophage. Personally, what I found works is having at least 1 Warlock with a well, then having a Hunter that can run a Tether, and then you have a 3rd user running whatever they want, and then having them use div. The reason for this is, well, simply put, linears are stupid, and they do a ton of damage, and their ammo economy efficiency is absurd. You can start with like 18 linear shots with Cataclysmic, keep proccing 4 times the charm over and over and over, do a ton of damage, and do like, I don't know, 60% damage to the boss and still have like 12 shots remaining. It's silly. As opposed to rockets, which you can run for this, by the way. But the problem with rockets is that once you're 7-8 shots out of your rockets, then, well, you're shit out of luck because you need more ammo and there are no champions to finish with Lucent Finisher in these rooms on normal. So, in my opinion, linears are the way to go, at least versus rockets, just solely on the fact of animal economy, where you can abuse triple tap, 4 times the charm, etc. Oh, don't forget Vice Stinger as well, by the way. Finally, I don't know if anybody actually cares about this information, but I'll mention it here anyway. The exotic in the dungeon is RNG. It is not a quest, so pretty much you're just going to be at the mercy of RNGesus, having your 1 chance per character per week for 3 total. However, I believe this is the same system as Duality, where you can complete triumphs in the game, where you can increase the chance of your exotic dropping. So ideally, what you want to do is complete the dungeon on 1 character, and then bang out as many triumphs as you can in the Legend section of Spire of the Watcher, and then come back on character 2 and 3 to have increased odds at getting the exotic. By the way, the exotic is a bow, for those that wanted to know. And also, on Master, if you kill the boss and complete the dungeon, you will get a catalyst for this exotic. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed. My voice is completely destroyed. I hope that the explanations weren't too ridiculous, and hopefully people understand. If anything, leave a question in the comments. I'll try to answer it. Other than that, a like, share, sub, perhaps even a notification bell would be appreciated. It does help the channel. I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'll be doing Solo Flawless, collectibles in the dungeon, Master runs, Master Solo Flawless, all that good stuff on the channel, so stay tuned. Other than that, you can also catch me on Twitch, streaming daily. Link in the description below. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time.